A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a significant development that has raised alarm among civil rights advocates, the U.S. Supreme Court issued an order on Wednesday that allows Virginia Republican officials to proceed with a controversial voter registration purge. This decision comes just days before the highly anticipated 2024 presidential election, potentially disenfranchising a substantial number of eligible voters. The unsigned order lifted an injunction that had been previously placed on the officials' efforts to remove hundreds of names from the voter registration rolls. The implications of this ruling are profound, as it raises questions about voting rights and the accessibility of the electoral process. Civil rights attorney Ryan Snow expressed deep concern over the ruling, stating, "The Supreme Court just ignored a key provision of the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. The NVRA explicitly prohibits states from purging voter registration lists within 90 days of a federal election, a safeguard intended to protect eligible voters from being unjustly removed." However, the Supreme Court's decision appears to contradict this provision, prompting fears of a dangerous precedent that could undermine voter protections in the future. The purge was initiated by an executive order from Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican, in August, which aimed to eliminate ineligible, non-citizen voters from the rolls. The criteria for the purge included individuals who had indicated their immigration status on Department of Motor Vehicle forms, including those who left the status question blank. Critics argue that this approach is flawed and could lead to the removal of eligible voters who may have inadvertently marked themselves as non-citizens or have since become naturalized citizens. Lawrence Ote, a longtime voter from Roanoke, Virginia, found himself among those purged from the rolls due to a mistake on his DMV form. "I've been voting since Jimmy Carter," he lamented, highlighting the absurdity of losing his voting rights over an error. Similarly, Nadra Wilson from Lynchburg faced a similar fate despite being a U.S. citizen born in Brooklyn. A mailer sent to her regarding her voter registration status reached the wrong address, and by the time she received it, the deadline to rectify the situation had passed. Wilson described her experience as very, very unfair, capturing the frustration felt by many affected individuals. Despite these troubling accounts, Governor Youngkin celebrated the Supreme Court ruling as a victory for common sense and election fairness. This perspective stands in stark contrast to the sentiments expressed by civil rights organizations, which condemned the ruling as a blatant disregard for voter rights. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, involved in the initial lawsuit against the purge, voiced their dismay, stating, "To say this decision is a disappointment is an understatement." The Supreme Court's ruling has sparked a heated debate about the integrity of the electoral process and the rights of voters. With only a few days remaining before the presidential election, the urgency to address these issues is palpable. Voters who have been purged do have the option to re-register, as Virginia is one of 22 states that allows same-day voter registration. However, for many individuals who believe they are registered, the sudden discovery that they are not poses an additional barrier to participating in the election. The situation is particularly concerning given the time constraints and the requirement for certain documentation at polling locations. The Supreme Court's decision raises critical questions about the balance between maintaining accurate voter rolls and ensuring that eligible voters are not disenfranchised. The NVRA was designed to protect against the very scenarios being observed in Virginia, and the court's ruling has the potential to set a troubling precedent for future elections. As the nation approaches November 5th, the stakes are high, and the implications of this ruling could reverberate far beyond Virginia. The integrity of the electoral process hangs in the balance, and the voices of voters like Ote and Wilson understand the urgent need for vigilance in protecting voting rights. The upcoming election is not just a test of candidates and policies. It is a referendum on the principles of democracy itself. As citizens prepare to cast their votes, the question remains: will their voices be heard, or will bureaucratic missteps and judicial decisions silence them? The time for action is now, and the call for accountability in the electoral process has never been louder. The future of democracy depends on it. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.